Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Mic with Radio Theology, your 28-minute deep dive into the
deep end of the pool.
The deep end of the pool of all the conversations we had this week on Radio Theology. Pastor Daron, your host, here with Ryan and Lisa. This is for the week of October 20th in the week, the weeks of this year just keep clipping by.
They do.
I went back and did a little review of the thoughts of the day this week, just kind of going back through. I was like, oh, man, that was fun. I remember that one.
Aww.
But it was crazy to see how many weeks there have been. I don't know if you guys know, but there are 52 weeks in a year.
Yep.
It doesn't seem like a lot, but it kind of adds up.
It does. Yeah. And there's 52 weeks in every year. They just keep happening. This week, we started off with a really great story we've told before, but it's been a while, and every time I hear it, it makes me laugh. Was when Ryan's massive need for forgiveness when he decided to shower in a sorority girls' hotel room.
On accident.
Actually, four sorority girls.
There were 4 young women whose room was abused by me. Let's just put it that way.
It was left ajar, really.
Right, who leaves their 4 sorority girls? Why would you possibly? What reason would you have
to leave your door
ajar? To leave your door ajar.
You're,
and then you're just asking for trouble. And guess who came? Trouble.
That's the beginning of
their dad would be really upset with them.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, honey, how'd that guy get in there to shower?
Yeah.
Well, Dad, we left the door propped open.
Yeah, it's the beginning of a horror movie.
Exactly.
Really.
It was their horror movie.
It was.
Yeah, you felt great, though.
It was it felt
Ryan
amazing.
was clean, bowels were empty.
Oh, I was just having a grand old time. I used their last clean towel, too.
Good.
In my defense, their room was next to the room that I should have gone into in the hotel that I was cleaning up in.
It makes sense. You were on tour with Straight No Chaser.
Yes.
You guys would get day rooms where you could go get off the bus, go shower up real quick.
Yeah, there'd be like a mountain of room keys, and just be like, just go grab one, clean up really quick, get on the bus in the next hour, we got to go. Well, I do that, and the door was ajar, like it was propped open with those little latch thingies.
Might as well said SNC shower room.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's so nice of the guys to leave the door open so I don't have to use the room key.
Until the 4 girls came in and said, what was happening?
Oh my gosh.
So rough. Yeah, I'm just sitting there,
like that.
toweled, brushing my teeth. Steamy room.
Yeah, that's good.
Who are you? What's going on? And I was like, I promise I'm not a creeper. And then also, can I have 5 minutes to finish? Which I did. And the saving grace in all of this was that one of them was in an a cappella group at her college. And so we had that in common.
Ryan said he was sorry, and he was like, can you match this pitch? I'm sorry. And they harmonized.
We
forgive you.
Wow. If that's what you call
Ryan
harmony.
started snapping fingers, and he was like, ooh,
yeah.
Sorry, I took
What's
shower.
Is this my sequin jacket?
I have
Appeared out of nowhere?
I love you guys so much.
So much.
Is
We're
this
hearing
going to
why
be
you're
on PBS or not? No, it's not.
No.
We're not doing this.
No. I'm glad, though, that she didn't call the cops on me.
I am, too.
We sent them a care package, a thank you for not calling the cops on us letter and package of all the merch possible.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great move.
Good.
Yeah.
I wish every time we needed extreme forgiveness from people, it could be fixed with a box of merch and some tickets to a show.
For sure.
Oh, we didn't go that far. We just gave them some CDs.
Oh, that's good. But you know what? We talked a little bit about the show about just actually in the hour we talked about the whole race, and at least you're talking about the half marathon you ran in Nairobi. There was no signs. You didn't know how far you were in the race, and realizing for me in the race of life, I'm 41 laps in, right? Mm-hmm. And what I don't like about life is realizing, like, as you make mistakes, like when you're 18, you make some mistakes, but you've only got 18 years to screw it up, and 5 of those years you're pooping your pants and not able to really do much about it, right?
Right.
But now, like, I got 41 years. There's some good chapters in 41 years. I'll be honest. It's been okay.
I'm sure.
But what I don't like recently is realizing, and I don't really like how much forgiveness I'm having to use in 41 years.
Yeah.
And I wish it could just be like, hey, can we laugh this off? I'll send you a box of CDs and we'll be cool, right?
Right, yeah. Thanks for not calling the cops.
Yeah, thanks for not calling the cops.
That was part of the letter.
Yeah.
That was thank you. That was the opening line.
Which, great move if you're ever in that situation. Do what Ryan did. But I think the tough thing is when you hurt the people that are closest to you. One thing I'm noticing as my kids are getting older, like, as you start to have, you guys will get to figure out the joy of this too, is as your kids get old enough to where you're not like apologizing for like, oh, like, I'm sorry I didn't buy you that toy or whatever it is. But like when you start having an pretty much adult relationship with your kids and you're realizing you're disappointing them, or they're recognizing the more character flaw-esque things in your life that aren't the little kid toddler things. They're the adult things. I'm realizing now, like, well, I was basically just asking my wife to forgive me often. Like, now I have a 15 and a 13-year-old that are watching my life, and that and it's just like, man, it's so important to be able to ask for forgiveness. But that being the case, it's equally important to be able to have the courage and the strength to extend forgiveness to people. It's heavy stuff, man.
I know. I feel really sad right now hearing you talk.
What, of all the joy of parenting you get to walk through?
Yeah, I'm basically panicking, and it's coming out in my heart as sadness.
As sadness?
Like going, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to get through all of my stuff and get it all figured out before I have to start having those conversations with my girl?
Well,
but I don't have to.
You
won't.
You won't.
Yeah.
But like I'm going to lunch this Friday with my 15-year-old. One of the things I want to check into with him as, like, he was talking to my wife and he said something this week about, like, it was kind of off handle, but not really. He said something about like, well, Dad, you're not really available to talk. I mean, you work all the time.
Oh.
Like, yeah, we go to coffee sometimes, but I mean, it's not like you're really talking.
Oh.
And I was like,
wow.
Yeah. On the tail end of Julie making the observation, my wife, you know what I mean, that I'm realizing that I don't do that well with the deeper stuff in life.
Yeah.
Like I do when about thinking. I can give you the deep thoughts about God and blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
Right? But I do struggle with like the deeper, intimate connection part with people. It's a growth area.
Right.
Well, I want that to be a growth area that I'm figuring that out. I don't want that to be a growth area that my 15-year-old is going, yeah, it'd be kind of cool, Dad, if we would talk about deeper things more often. Like,
wow.
Oh, boy.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. It sounds like the plot of, or the lyrics to "And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon." It's like the son and the dad.
Gosh.
The son becomes the dad one day.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
But one thing you said this week that resonated with me.
It hurts, right?
Oh, my gosh.
Blame Cat Stevens or whatever name he's going by right now.
I'm more into the Ugly Kid Joe version of it. You remember that band, that rock band?
No, I never heard of Ugly Kid Joe. I've heard of Fat Joe.
No, Ugly Kid
Neither
Joe.
of these sound like very nice names.
Well, Fat Joe named himself that, I'm pretty sure. Never mind.
Probably
Okay.
That
Ugly
sounded like
Kid
a
Joe
really
did
mom thing for you to say. Now, honey, these don't sound like very nice names.
Is that a parental advisory lyric sticker? Let me see that.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, what were you saying?
No, I'm saying what resonated with me this week that you said was that you're looking back at your chapters and wishing that there were some things that you hadn't written into your story.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Because I'm living through some of that stuff right now. Like, I'm living through choices I made years and years ago, choices to bury things down deep that should have been, could have been.
Yeah.
Brought up and healed then. Instead, I'm like, no, that hurts too much. Let's seal that away. Let's lock it up tight. That's not coming back. Oh, you want to make a bet?
Yeah.
And now I'm trying to parent a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, sustain 3 jobs and have a healthy marriage, and figure out the thing.
Yeah. It's just a geyser of emotion that's just bubbling
right,
up.
yes, and I can't avoid unhealthy emotion. Besides that's what happens. If I start avoiding my emotions, then I seal them away so deeply and so far away that they just come back up decades later. So I'm like, I don't want to do that. So that's why I find myself crying all the time, which I think is maybe a good thing.
Well, we talked about it. Actually, we had a really cool kind of God moment as a team, a little behind the mic, behind the curtain of our ministry, Blackbird Mission, and what we do with radio theology and pub theology and spiritual DNA is on Monday mornings, we start our week off with prayer as a team.
Yeah.
And I came in to the office this week. It was just a little heavy, kind of feeling through some of these things and making the point of like, I wish some of these things weren't, I wish I didn't have chapter whatever of my story. But you know what? I made the decisions. I did that. So now we deal with it. But I was speaking to myself in a very negative way. I tend to do that.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
There was parental explicit lyrics in my thoughts about myself.
It was really hard to hear.
Yeah. But it's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And I actually, as we were praying, the Holy Spirit brought my mind to this self-compassion letter that I had written to myself because my counselor made me do it like 7, 8 years ago. And I saved it and actually left blanks open where all my name was so I could give it to people if they need it to be able to read. This is a letter from Jesus to you, the way he would actually interact with you in life.
Yeah.
And it was just really, I don't know, it was a really powerful moment for us as a team as we prayed, because it was like, I think different parts of the letter hit for each one of us, but it was a part of realizing, like, if I can't love myself with the grace and forgiveness that Jesus loves me with first, I'm never going to be able to be what I need to be for my son or for my wife or for you guys and friends and the folks that we get a chance to minister to through radio theology. Is, man, that's where it has to start. Of the first person I got to really begin to extend God's grace and forgiveness to is myself.
Right.
Or else I'm not prepared for the challenges of forgiveness that come my way from others.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I find myself when I'm in the state of emotional distress and the shame spiral, which I've been in a lot the last few weeks especially, but I find myself more mean to everyone around me. Like, I am mean because I only have negative emotional capacity or whatever. So like that fires out of my mouth, and then in my head I'm like, oh, just add it to the list of things that you're screwing up at. And it's it's very unhealthy. But if I were ever, probably should, to write my own self-compassion letter, or even have a few moments of going, no, I get forgiveness. Like, that's what we get to do.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jesus, for that. I would love better myself and everyone around me. So I apologize to you guys if I was mean and short this week.
This coming from the friend who brought us a platter of pinwheels and caramel-colored apples.
Yeah. Oh, and those chips.
Covered apples. And the chips for lunch today.
Yeah. Don't sleep on the kettle chips from Kroger.
Oh, I love a good kettle chip.
Carolina barbecue.
So good. So good.
I love a good kettle chip.
But
back to the grace and compassion of
Yeah.
Jesus.
I was just thinking about
That's
chips.
just one of the ways I can tangibly exercise a healthy shepherding spirit is by buying you food.
It was appreciated. There's
I'm
something
basically
deep
buying
in
your
that.
forgiveness.
There's something deep in that of
Yeah.
like, I'm helping you survive.
Yeah.
Value me.
I write classic 2.
On the
2.
Enneagram.
I'm a 2. I'm the supportive helper. And I love basically so that you love me back.
Wow. It's
Isn't that
deep.
pathetic though?
It's
That
deep.
sounds pathetic, but
I'm a 3.
It is what it
I
is.
achieve and project an image of success
so that we love you.
so that I'm loved.
Yeah. What about you, Daron?
I'm a 7. I just excess in everything in life to love myself. Actually, I think.
Yeah. That's good.
I think the 7, it's actually just says pure selfishness.
Nice.
That's not what it says.
No,
But
but lots of areas for forgiveness. and growth
But what's
there.
interesting, if you think about, and we don't know how deep you're into the Enneagram, but over the past probably year and a half, I'd say all 3 of us have gotten pretty deep into it.
Yeah.
Not letting it be like the center of our lives, but it is a helpful tool. What's interesting is you go in excess. I wasn't there for the conversation on Monday morning that you had referenced, but I would imagine that where the pendulum can swing both ways, positively and negatively, of excess, where it sounds like you just heaped it on because that's kind of your natural knee-jerk tendency in life as you go about and see. And again, it's just kind of the lens that you look through.
Yeah.
It's not you. It's just your most frequent operating system.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah. As far as my
Heaping on in excess of self
deprecation and shame.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's everything's a pendulum swing for me. Right? So if I'm feeling negative, I'm feeling super duper negative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling positive, then I'm the greatest thing ever. Everybody should love me.
Yeah.
Or everybody should hate me. Somebody shoot me. So
Yeah.
it's always pendulum swings. It'd be good if I could just, right in the middle there be like, well, I mean, there's a negative thought, but we can bounce that out.
Yeah.
Like, moderation is my goal. Mm-hmm. It eludes me like grabbing Jell-O, like trying to hold time.
Slipping through my fingers like sand.
Yeah, it's a challenge. You know what? And one of the quotes that helped me a ton, and I think it was maybe Dallas Willard. He says a lot of great things. If he didn't say this, we'll still give him credit for it. But basically, he was talking about that for my kind of personality. Maybe this applies to all of us. Is that one of the things that to be able to have self-control, like that's one of the fruits of the Spirit. We can't actually get self-control by trying to get self-control.
Right.
it's a fruit of God's Spirit in our life, and it could be anything. For me, it's in the excess realm. For you, Lisa, it could be self-control with the emotions and the stuff. We talked a little bit about that. Whatever it is in the balance of our is that we actually gain self-control by self-discipline and actually denying the self. And that's where we get to spiritual disciplines like fasting and different things, is that if you can say, I'm going to try to control self-control, like you're not going to get that from self-control. But it's not trying to control it, but it's actually getting to the place where you are either disciplining it or depriving it. And it's through that discipline that then you accidentally discover control. It's kind of a, what's the way he says it? It's like I can't remember the way he says it now. I wish I would have.
Was it Dallas Willard or is it Dallas Clark? No. It might be Dallas Clark.
It's not Dallas Clark, the old tight end for the Colts.
Did you hear it on the show, Dallas?
Effort. That's what he said. Indirect effort. It's through indirect effort that you actually grow in those certain areas.
Okay.
You can't just focus on, like, I'm going to control. No, you have to actually deny. And in that process, you'll find yourself in a place of control.
Surrender.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
good.
Deep stuff. Hey, we also talked about guys that can run marathons in less than 2 hours.
Oh, yeah. This one guy, Eliud something Kenyon.
Eliud something Kenyon.
It's a hyphenated name. His parents kept their last names. Eliud something Kenyon.
And in that conversation, we just talked about the pain and focus that it took to persevere through that.
Oh, man.
If he didn't have this goal that he had failed at and come back from again and train for, that, listen, I'm going to try to do this.
Yeah.
The joy of accomplishing that world record, for sure, is the thing that sustained him through the unbelievable pace he was running to do sub 4 minute whatever or sub 5 minute miles for 26.2 of them.
Yeah.
And I think, man, that is such a challenge in our life. We're not all trying to train for a marathon or even running, but to look past pain and keep the promise of the joy we have to keep us persevering. Such difficult stuff.
It got really metaphor-y in here for a while with the whole spiritual race that we're running in.
Yeah.
Clouds of metaphors.
Yes, and as a runner, I'm like, man, every time I step out the door for a run, I'm like, God, this is just like life. This is just like life.
Someone should write a book about this.
I'm sure they have.
Yeah.
If not, maybe someday.
Yeah. What do you think that guy does now? Like that he's broken. What do you think Eliud something Kenyon does now?
Hopefully he celebrates. That's the thing.
Yeah, right.
That's the thing that I maybe am not great at, is celebrating the victory. So like I got opens my imagination for something. I see a goal and I'm like, I'm going to go for it. And when I hit it, I'm like, oh, but he already gave me the next goal. And so I don't stop to celebrate the actual thing.
Yeah. No, I was literally having the same conversation with our friends, Matt and Megan, manager, who help us as a team with a ton of different stuff. I was like, I don't think I'm toying with giving myself a reward of a new guitar.
For sure.
You need
okay.
Just get the new guitar.
And I go, well, it could be a tax
Quit
write-off,
talking about
and
it.
it could be this, and here's the functionality of it for more, and I'm just like, I realize I don't really pause to celebrate.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, okay, on to the next thing. And that's why I'm like, does this dude I can't even imagine the physical toll that running that at that speed
For sure.
puts on your body.
Yeah.
He crossed the finish line. He was like, okay. I mean, if you see the video, he's just like, he doesn't collapse.
No.
Like he is trucking as he crosses that finish line.
Yeah.
I bet he doesn't. Me might. I think about it like sometimes when you see, like, I love NASCAR. So you see a guy who wins a big race at NASCAR. It's like, man, can you believe it? You guys won the Daytona 500. Oh, man, we're going to party hard tonight, celebrate.
We just had a good car.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank the Honda team. Man, we had a great car.
Honda isn't a NASCAR. Anyway.
My pit crew, Bobby. Man, I love you, Bobby.
The idea, we've worked so hard. We're going to celebrate by getting plastered tonight.
Yeah.
Right.
And then after we wake up with a hangover on Monday, we'll do some interviews and do it. Like, did the guy run the marathon? And before he was like, dude, I can't wait. We're going to freaking get drunk tonight.
Or I'm just wondering, too, like, is he now set on breaking that record? That's where I'm trying to...
it's not enough? Because now I did that. Can I do it? And
I did it in an hour 59 and 40 seconds?
No,
I wonder if I can do it an hour 58.
Yeah, but one of the things he talked about in his post-race interview was that it had been since 1954 that a human had broken any type of running record.
Really?
Yeah, and that was when
Roger Bannister
broke the 4-minute mile.
Yes.
And so this guy Elliott said, now I know that more people will come after me and break this. Mm-hmm. And so I just like the charge of, borrow my imagination for this. You take it and you set this as your goal because you could do it too. I like that.
I do. I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think one of the things, coming back to our self-compassion letter thing from earlier this week, is we talked about there was a line in there of the letter that said something about that so often we seek for significance in our accomplishment. And in the letter from Jesus that I wrote, talks about your significance comes from our relationship. That's what I designed you for. Like, I'm great with you accomplishing things.
Sure.
Don't get caught up in thinking that your self-worth and everything you are in what you're doing or not doing. The significance comes from our connection. And, when we talk here, on Radio Theology often, and we talk about the spiritual DNA, course, one of the things we say often is that when you know your worth, you'll change your world. Mm-hmm. And I think that's that part of knowing your worth, that your significance isn't caught up in God and what you can accomplish and how well you're performing for Him, but it's in the fact that you're His child.
Yeah.
And I think if we could get there and be less attached to what we're doing or not doing and say, you know what, my greatest significance is that I'm loved and I'm accepted and I'm a child of God. I think it might free us to begin to offer ourselves the forgiveness and not get so lost or so confused in a pursuit of significant accomplishment.
Yeah, that's a good word, man. We've interviewed Skye Jethani, who wrote a book called With, Reimagining the Way You Relate with God. And one of the 4 ways, or I think really 5, he talks about life from God, for God, under God, and over God, and then ultimately we're meant to spend life with God.
Yeah.
But in that section, as you're talking about the striving for success, the striving for significance, it's like that's what he would say would be the life for God worldview.
Yeah.
Is man, I'm gonna go serve overseas, and I'm gonna do all this mission work, or I'm going to go to church 4 nights a week and serve on the team, and whatever it is actually stealing the relationship aspect with our Creator. And you've talked a lot about that too. Is it Mike Breen, the principle of kingdom and covenant and kingdom?
Yeah.
Do you want to dive into that?
Yeah, we can briefly.
Okay.
I'm going to wrap it up and land this plane for you as you're finishing your run on the treadmill. The idea that God has created us to belong, for belonging in His family, but He's also created us with a need for significance in His kingdom. And it's a cool balance of realizing that within a covenant relationship with God, He is our Father. And the first thing He establishes with us is our identity as children of God. It's nothing based on what we can do or have done. It's what He bestows upon us as His children. And it's out of identity that obedience flows. You become who you already are and who He's already created you to be and redeemed you to be. And then as you grow in obedience, it does drive you into greater connection with God. So often we run that backwards. We get connected to God, we get obsessed with our own performance or obedience, and then we tell ourselves who we are. And it's usually not a good report card.
Yeah.
The other side of that is that not only do we have a great dad who we belong to His family in a covenant relationship, which means we're becoming one with Him, but He has a kingdom. Dad's a king, right? Our Father is the king of the universe. And the cool thing about our dad is He's not just saying, hey, come work for me. He's not a slave driver or whatever. He's a great dad who's a king. And our identity, He also gives us His authority. And so our identity and who He is gives us the authority that we desire, that we need to represent Him in His kingdom. And as we step out and do that, we actually see God's power at work in our life. And so those are 2 of our greatest human needs, is to belong and to achieve, right? To belong and to have significance. And placed right in the context of a relationship with God, they're 2 of the greatest driving forces of our life that God put in our soul for us to have fulfilled in Him and through Him. But so often when we look for outside sources for those to be met, that's where some of the greatest, haywired adventures of our life come from. And where a lot of brokenness enters our life.
Mm-hmm. That's good stuff. We could spend a whole hour just on that last conversation alone.
We just might.
Yeah.
We just might.
Yeah, maybe one day.
Hey, thanks for listening to Behind the Mic. We appreciate it. And we'd love to hear from you. You can reach out to us at radiotheology.com or on the podcast. You can leave comments. We'd really appreciate it if you would give us a review and share this episode with some folks that maybe would be encouraged by it. We don't do this show just to hear ourselves talk, but we do it because we want to impact your life. We want you to understand that God's for you, not against you, that He's near you, not far from you, and that He's created you on purpose and for purpose. Because we know that you want your life to matter. But fear is your enemy, And if we can help you overcome that fear and begin to understand your worth, you will start changing your world. And so if you've been inspired by this episode and you have friends that might be inspired by it, please share it with them. And we'll be excited to talk to you next week right here on Behind the Mic, an extension, deeper dive of radio theology, your weekly dose of faith, hope, love, and music.